Hey guys, hey ladies, hey friends, hey foes. We just wanted to take a second to remind you that while we're okay swearing when little ears are listening, you might not be, and that's okay. So here's your chance to pause us and wait for nap time, or pop in your earbuds. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Me in the straight jacket. 'Cause I'm a criminal. I need some medication. I'm hearing voices. I'm making bad choices.
Welcome back to another episode of Done Playing by the Rules. My name is Janelle.
And I'm Jenna.
And Jenna's showing off her tattoos, and I was just oogling all of them. She's getting real sleevey over there. I love that one.
Not that
The new dad one.
I know, thanks. I have a tank top on because it's 86 degrees here today.
So jealous. It was 70 yesterday here, and we were like, it's full on summer. And then today it was like 46 and rain.
No, is it really that cold?
I think so. And Zach started crying, and he was like, we had one nice day. We had one nice day. And I was like, okay, well, we have to give it time. All right. So Jenna and I have not fully discussed our views on this, but I think we have similar views when it comes to college. Let's talk about our background first and our spouses, and then talk about where our parenting philosophy kind of comes from in terms of college. And then I'll read you some research and interesting information. I went to college. I went to college for 6 years and didn't graduate. I had a lot of fun and wouldn't trade it for anything because I got all of my wildness out of my system and now I never need to be wild again. Josh went to 0 minutes of college, like barely graduated. My dad didn't go to college, barely graduated. I think my mom went to like vet school or something, but I was the first one and only one in my family to go to college, but didn't succeed. So that's my college story. What's yours?
So I actually didn't want to go to college. I wanted to get my degree, but I did not want to go to college. I was having a lot of anxiety my senior year of high school. My parents were like, go here, like try it out. And it was great. I went to a private university. I graduated in 4 years with a degree in education and a minor in special education. And I'm glad my parents forced me to go because it was a great experience, especially I think it was my junior and senior year were wonderful. I traveled abroad. I did my student teaching abroad. It was unforgettable. But that first year and the second year were a little, because I was just really struggling with, this is when I first kind of got diagnosed with anxiety, which being a senior in high school is really late when you've struggled with it since you were little. And I was just trying to figure all of that out. My parents were separating. It was just a lot going on. Brandon went to college in Oklahoma and he got his degree in biology, graduated in 4 years. And then he went on to get his master's, but he didn't finish. No, I take that back. He went to med school and I actually met him when he was in med school and he took me out to dinner. And you have to remember, like, if you've listened before, we got engaged after like 3 months. Yeah. So this is like early in our relationship. We weren't engaged yet. And he took me out to eat and he was like, I just want to talk to you about something. And I'm just really stressed out. And I could tell something had been going on with him. And I'm thinking, oh, he's breaking up with me. And he was like, I just hate where I'm at in my life. I do not like med school. I don't like anything about it. And he was still taking classes and everything. And I was like, well, what do you like? Because clearly there's some kind of, I knew he loved like biology and some of the medical stuff. And I was like, what do you like? And he was like, I like the lab aspect of it. And I was like, well, there you go. And he was like, but I can't just drop out of med school. And I said, well, why not? Yeah. And he was just kind of like, because society basically, what is society going to think? And I was like, who cares? And he was like, and then I have to start over if I want to get my master's. And I was like, okay, then start over. And so when we actually got married, I was working and he was in school and he was working as well, but just part-time. He ended up not finishing. He had 1 semester left and he got a great job opportunity and he took a job. And now he has a wonderful job. He's never finished, but his company doesn't require it. He said maybe one day he would consider going back and getting it just because he loves learning and he loves doing that kind of stuff. Yeah. And his company, I think, would pay for it, if I remember right. But he was like, I want it to be when the kids are older and when my focus after work can be that versus
like and my study. Yeah.
Right. My dad graduated from college. And then when I was in middle school, he got his master's. My mom fooled around in college, like
see, I told
partied
you,
and she just partied too hard. She was like, I had fun.
So much fun.
And then my brother didn't graduate either. School had never been his thing, even though he's very, very intelligent. I feel like there was a lot of pressure to graduate and to go to a good school. And so I, being the type A personality I am and people pleaser, was like, I'm going to do this then. And so that's kind of why I did it.
I think that's why I did it too, because I always knew I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but my dad had a company at the time, and he was like, well, I mean, you could go and get a business degree and help run the company someday, even though like it was always going to be my brother's.
Yeah.
And I don't and my brother and sister are way smarter than me and didn't go to college. So I don't think that smart equals college at all,
No,
personally.
not at all.
And some of the most successful people I know have very minimal high school
Yeah.
degrees even. But I just thought it was the next thing you do before you become, I always want to be a stay-at-home mom. So before you become a mom, you go to college, I guess, because my dad was like, you have the grades and you like have the ACT score to go. So go.
My ACT score was shit.
My GPA was shit and I got denied from all the schools. And then they got my ACT scores and a couple of them let me in. And I was like,
I didn't even take the SAT because I have such bad test anxiety that I was just like, I can't do it.
Fucking love tests.
I probably could do it now because I have a lot more. But again, I didn't know I had anxiety. And I think I'm just like, and I would like, I froze. I actually took the ACT twice. And the first one I just froze. I don't think I even did half of it. I was like, oh. But I actually changed my major when I was in school. That was like the one
I don't know.
daring thing.
What was your OG?
I actually had a scholarship for communications.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted to be something in terms of like a reporter, but it was causing me anxiety. And I knew that I wanted to dictate where my life went in terms of where I live. And being a reporter, you can't. You take a job where it comes.
And then take you.
If you get a promotion and it's in another city or another state, like you take that. And I was like, I just didn't feel happy. And so one day I had known I wanted to be a teacher, but I don't know. I just feel like back then, especially like, oh, you're just a teacher kind of thing. Like I will say, so I went to TCU. The School of Education at that school is phenomenal. It was so much fun. It was so rewarding. It was amazing. And I absolutely loved it. So I'm glad
you got to teach abroad. Like amazing.
Right.
That's like a life like bucket list.
Yes.
Situation.
And I was able to get other certifications before I graduated, like an ESL and all these other things. And it was just, there's so many opportunities. It was just a really, really good school. So I was glad I did that change because I would not be happy.
Jenna has a positive college experience from an academic standpoint. I have a positive college experience from a social standpoint, but we do not intend to push school on our kids.
Not at all.
You and I have like touched on this, but we've always just been like, we agree on everything and we don't like dig into stuff. But like, I personally, our life insurance and stuff is set up that it is not dependent on the kids going to college. But there's a lot of people that it's dependent on going to school.
Really? I didn't know
that. That was a big thing when we had the life insurance drawn up. It was, do you want to put it in this fund where it's only for college or this other fund? And I think it's like, this was a lot of years ago, 8 years ago. I think like it doesn't build as fast if you don't put it in a straight college fund, or I don't remember how it works, but you can pick to give it to them at like 18, 21, 25, or 28, I think was our options. And we were like, give it to them when they turn 21, I think we said, because like if you give it to them at 18, that implies like go to school with it. If you give it to them at 21, maybe they've taken a little bit of time to like think things through, or they can use it to pay back student loans if they went to college. I have very little interest if they go to college or don't go to college. And that is something that all research shows is brand new to our generation and the generation after us. So Generation Z is kind of like the one right before our kids. It's not us. Okay. We're millennials. We're elder millennials, I believe. But Gen Z is 1997 to 2012. So that's right before our kids. Our kids are Generation Alpha. And that is early to mid 2010s to the mid 2020s. They don't have much research showing what's going to happen with Generation Alpha because they're babies or not born yet. But Generation Z, a lot of articles are being written about how they will be the defining generation to rewrite how college is seen. Because
it'll be
mostly,
really interesting.
a lot of it has to do with how their parents see it. And a lot of parents don't see it the way our parents saw it. My parents saw it as like, this is a status symbol and it means that I did my job correctly. Like with us, it was, what college did they go to? What college did your kid get into? What college are you applying to? This. It was such a status symbol in our generation, and our generation doesn't value it. I think studies say 53% less our generation values it. And so Generation Z and Generation Alpha are going to value it based on our expectations, which are low, much lower than our parents' generation.
Well, and I think a lot of it has to do with, we were told and we were conditioned to, you will not get a good job if you don't go to college. And there were so many, like, I know so many people that had like stipulations. Like, if you don't go to college, you have to move out the second you graduate. You get no money from us.
You have to pay for your own car. You have to get a job. You have to pay for your own cell phone. Oh my God, I forgot about all that. That was every fucking parent. Yes.
But if you go to college, we will help you. And there was so much. And so then I think our generation has grown up and we're like, this is bullshit. I did not need that degree to be, and to some extent, yes, dependent on what you want to do. You can't just go be a lawyer. Yeah. So I think that we were like, this is bullshit. And I think that's why we don't put it on our kids, because we have peeked behind the curtain now and we're like, wait, we didn't need that 4-year or 6-year or whatever degree or your master's or anything like that to actually be successful. And that is such an old way of thinking.
And you start off your life riddled with debt. And so
or your parents go into debt over
your parents go into and my dad paid, which like privilege alert. My dad paid for everything except for 1 year of my college. So my student loan payments were $101 every month for like a couple years.
Yeah. My dad paid for mine too, but our thing was 4 years. That's what you got.
Yeah. My dad was like,
which I was very privileged.
He was like, no, like you're paying for yourself.
But I even remember having anxiety over how much college cost, especially because I was going to a private college. And yes, I had a scholarship, but it wasn't full ride. It was a little bit of money, and then I was like, well, I can just live at home because I know how much dorms are. And then you have meal plans and then you have books and then gas to go, back and forth. And it was so expensive that I just didn't want to. My parents had to sit me down and be like, you do not need to worry about the money right now. Just apply and go where you want to go and get the education, which I am thankful that they did that, because I do know a lot of people that are like, you have to go to college, but you have to go within state or to this college, which is a whole other issue as well. I'm very grateful.
Was within state. My dad was like, I'm not going to, because I want to go to Florida. And he was like, I'm not paying for you to go to out of state tuition. Also, like, obviously you're just going to go party. So like, no. Yeah. So I had to be within state. And my college was actually cheaper than my high school because my private high school was so expensive. But in this article, which I will link, which everyone can go read because it's really well written and really succinct. But the number one reason that they think that Generation Z will skip college is the rising costs. And since 2004, so I entered college in 3 or 4. I graduated in 2003, so you go in the same year. So 2003. 74% increase in student debt since 2004. 74%.
I have watched my college tuition, like for the school I went to, rise, and I'm like, how would anyone afford that?
How?
No, it's insane.
And then when two people decide to or do not decide to get married or cohabitate and split bills, if you're both like, if one of you is two doctors, like, and you paid for that yourself, the amount of money you are paying back is crippling. It is. Or
crippling. I know people that have paid off their debt or not had any, and then they get married to somebody that has a ton from college. And that's a lot. It's a lot to carry. It's so
imagine Josh marrying me, and I'm like, here's your sweet gift of my 6 years I went to college and didn't do shit with it. Like,
because it doesn't matter if you graduated, you still have to pay it all.
But I only had a little bit, and so I think I paid it by the time we were married. But The second one is increasing education alternatives. And there's a whole list on the website, but there's so many other ways to get education than going to college. I love a trade school. Some of my favorite people are plumbers and master plumbers, and they make a shit ton of money, and they go to a trade school, and their actual job, like a plumber's job, satisfaction is higher than like most lawyers.
Oh yeah. I had somebody I knew in high school. She was 2 years older than me, and she was really talented at basketball, like really talented, but she was really talented at hairstyling too, and she did not like basketball. Parents made her, she got a full ride, made her go for basketball, and she never got to like pursue her hair career. And she was always like so upset, and she would just like cry and cry because her parents were like, we won't pay for school for you, and you're going to have to pay for this and be on your own completely. And she was like, I can't do that. I'm like, that sucks. Like, and she's a teacher now. And I'm like, you could have made more money being a hairstylist probably, but.
Or like what your satisfaction would be doing something artistic that you find so fulfilling.
And you're naturally good at. Yes. Like she was doing all of our hair when she was in high school. Like highlights.
Dude,
like
hairstylists make so much fucking money too.
Don't they?
Like, oh my God.
Which if you're good, you deserve it. So
you deserve it. It's art. It's art, and it is hard, and it is also like chemistry because like someone you could burn all my hair off bleaching it the way that you and I bleach our hair. So you have to know so much, and you have to do so much like training and follow-up training. Another thing that I found very interesting was the third factor is lengthening life and innovative times, and which I always love. Do you ever watch like an old-timey show and then somebody on it's like 50 and you're like, that guy would be dead if this was actually 1800. The global life expectancy of humans in 1900 was 31 years old. In 2015, it was 71. The first person to live to be 150 has likely already been born. Wow. I know. So people are realizing that as things happen, will a 4-year education at a school sustain me if my career is 100 years?
Right.
That doesn't equate for Gen Z, who sees like, if I'm going to be working for 100 years, because will there be Social Security for Gen Z? Probably not. So if I'm going to be working for 100 years, they are going to be looking to their employers to educate them, which is the next step, which is like you said about Brandon, education is going corporate. So jobs are paying for your continuing education at this point. Kids don't necessarily, those rascally Gen Zs don't see the value in paying a huge debt to go into a job that's just going to continue your education.
Well, and I think our generation also is a lot more focused on happiness and joy and living not in the moment, but like living for what makes us happy. And I don't want to say we're more of a selfish generation, but some people might see it as that, like other generations.
I think the boomers think we're selfish, or they're selfish.
And so it's like, I think that a lot of us had missed out on a lot of dreams or opportunities. I knew a lot of people that wanted to be a mechanic, lots of people, male and female, and people would just be like, why? Like, that's not a good job. That's not a career. And it's like, what? And that takes a special type of person to be good at that. I don't know. I could go off on a whole tangent.
My husband hires mechanics. He pays a mechanic $120,000 a year. Like every mechanic that comes in has the potential to make $120,000 a year right out. Yeah. You're not going to make that coming straight out of a 4-year school.
Right. And so I think we've realized like, okay, we don't need to go to college unless it's something that really is exactly that for our career. And there, like you said, there's so many more opportunities.
Yeah.
So
that's what it says is Gen Z, in reference to education, is going corporate. Gen Z is seriously considering foregoing a traditional college education to go work for a company that provides college-like training as part of the job, and companies are preparing to pivot. They're talking about Walmart and AT&T are making job retraining a high priority. On college campuses, students are willing to walk right up to recruiters and say, will you teach me what I need to know if I go to work for you? So you can recruit right off of a college campus if you're willing to provide the training to send them up the ladder. And I have a couple of friends that work for Costco and went up the ladder at Costco and make great money at
That's
Costco,
awesome.
like bananas, because these companies will just keep retraining you, and
Mm-hmm.
college has nothing to do with this.
No, exactly.
It's not even in the
That's pretty
conversation.
cool.
And again, which we've already covered, shifting priorities for parents, which is mine and
Mhm.
Jenna's big one. This article says baby boomers viewed education as a dream, Generation X as a differentiator, millennials as a cultural norm, and Generation Z as for law and medical students only, which is what
Mhm.
you and I have said accidentally multiple times. Gen Z sees college as medical and law only. Because baby boomers held education in such a high regard, which our parents were baby boomers, they instilled the belief and the need to attend college into their millennial children, which is us. Many argue the only reason college even remains relevant today is due to societal and peer pressure, which Generation Z does not give a fuck about
Mm-mm.
societal pressure. So that's not going to hold out. Only 39% of millennials believe a college degree, quote unquote, leads to a good job or higher lifetime earnings. So, millennial parents at a 39% believing in college being a determining factor is not enough to keep even colleges in business, is what they're talking about. Like,
Yeah,
universities are going to go out of business if this trend continues.
I know. Which is, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to me because I have a lot of people that I follow on Facebook or social media, and their kids are all kind of graduating this year, and it's all still college talk. And I was kind of surprised,
Really?
thinking that it would be
Yeah.
different. I don't know. It's still a lot of college talk. And if
You're
my
right,
kid
yeah.
comes to me and is like, I want to go to college, I'm going to say, okay, let's talk about how we can make that happen. I will
Yes.
honor that. I don't
Yeah.
think it's necessary. I don't think it's, unless, of course, they want to be, like we've mentioned, a career where it is necessary. But
Mhm.
if they say they want to go for that experience, like they're going to have to take it seriously, for one, because I'm not going to just pay for them to party. But like, I get it, because I had a great experience between the friends I made and studying abroad and just living on my own. I don't want to say my high school was kind of a joke, but I did not work hard in high school at all. I didn't
Yeah.
study. I didn't even know how to study. And so when I went to college, it was very eye-opening. Oh shit,
Mhm.
like I
Oh
don't even
my
know how to like
God.
really take notes or anything.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of teach myself, and I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot about myself. I grew a lot as a person in those 4 years, especially the last 2. And so I am open to it. Like, I'm not going to be like, no, like you don't need to go. But at the same
Well,
time,
because
like
also,
there's
like,
no
if our
pressure.
kids came to us and said, I want to go to circus school, we would also sit down and have the same conversation with
Right.
them. But that's like college and circus school are interchangeable to me,
Yeah, same
unless
here.
my youngest may want to be a doctor, and so you
Yeah.
hell have to go to college. But like,
Right.
unless it is something that, like, if Zach is dying to be a CPA, or like wants to be this, or wants to be something that does require like a college degree. But also, all these articles were written before the pandemic, and the college landscape has changed so much during the pandemic. A lot of college is just done at home now.
Mm-hmm.
You're not living on campus. You're not, I mean, a lot of it still is. It's going to be a really different landscape in the next 10 years, I think,
Mm-hmm.
regarding virtual learning from home for college versus a campus that supports
Mm-hmm.
a building and the infrastructure of an actual campus.
Right. And can we also talk about how it's okay for your kid to not know what they want to do when they're a senior and their
Right?
year right after? Because clearly,
Yeah.
like I went to college for that reason. And I had applied to 3 schools and I got into them. And then TCU had offered me a scholarship. And that was really where I wanted to go, honestly. And I was just lucky that they did. And so that's kind of why I picked them. But then I didn't even stay with that career path.
Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
okay
and
for
why do
your
we
kid to
think
not
that when
know.
somebody turns 18 that they're suddenly like
Right?
worldly?
Yeah. Like I had
Like
no
we
idea. And I didn't even know half the
no.
careers out there. And I don't know, like we went to job fairs, but we didn't have like you have career day. And it's like what? When you're little, first of all. And it's like
Yeah.
firemen, police people. Like we need to open our kids' eyes. I think that's our job as parents, to all the different job opportunities. Like whenever my kids are like, oh, I'm really into like exotic reptiles, I'm like, zoology is something you can
Yeah.
study. And we talk about
Yeah.
those terms
Yeah.
because I also wanted to study marine biology because that was something I was familiar with and I was really interested in, but I didn't want to live that far from home, which that's what I needed at the time. But no one talked to me about like zoology. And I think I would have actually probably gone down that path. But of course, it wasn't even offered at my school. And I'm not going to go back now and do it. I know I
you'd
could.
be so cute.
But yeah, it's just not as much of a passion right now, but kind of felt like I missed out. Like there was not much talk of this is what you could do. It's like, okay, here's the colleges. It's not, here's the careers or the career
It reminds
paths.
me of, how people talk about like, I'm sure glad that we learned so much about parallelograms in high school because it's really come in handy this parallelogram
Exactly.
season. No one ever explained to me what student debt was. And no one ever explained to me I could study abroad. No one ever explained to me a lot of the opportunities that I missed out on in school. And so I didn't even know like that student debt could be crippling as an adult.
Right.
No one literally ever said to me, no one explained to me like, hey, there's going to be a bunch of predatory people. And luckily my dad told me like, never sign up for a credit card in college. But no one told me there was going to be 500 predatory credit card booths and every hallway of opening week. And I had so many roommates that signed up for 5 credit cards and ruined their credit before they even left their freshman year of college. And that's what you said. Let's have these conversations. When Mikey's obsessed with bones, we talk to him like, oh, you could be a surgeon. You could be like Mikey right now will tell you he wants to be a paleontologist and he's 5, where Zach is going to be some sort of like comedian or like who knows what. I don't see Zach being he's super smart, but I just don't see him being a studious kid. My brother and sister, I've said, are smarter than me and both have great like lives and career paths that they have chosen for themselves and are completely happy. And I always knew I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, so I was the one like, what am I doing here? What am I doing at college? But I mean, it turned out to be worth it in terms of like getting my sillies out, as you and me and your mom would say. But the other big thing is, and this is the 6th point, which I find fascinating because my college degree that I didn't get was in organizational management, which is just a business degree. But
why did I think it was psychology?
Minor in psychology.
Oh, okay.
Major in business, minor in psychology. But I still am fascinated by the economy. Like I wish that I could have like just gone on like into the stock market or something because I love just reading and talking to Brandon about like stocks and the economy. And every time I go over to Jenna's, I'm like, hey, Brandon, let's talk about the stock market. But the gig economy. So a gig economy is, think about what you think of as a gig economy. Basically, it is Uber, it is food delivery, it's DoorDash, it's all of these jobs. And so I thought this was a really interesting way to describe it. A job that lasts a certain amount of time. The term comes from musicians to define a performance engagement. It is in a free market system in which temporary positions are common and workers are hired for short-term commitments. So this article was written, I think, in 2019, but they estimated in 2020 that gig economy would make up 43% of the workforce.
Oh, wow.
And
I believe that.
I believe it too. And gig economy is a big deal because it is a way for people to, you can look up all the charts online. A lot of it is like just to earn extra income around their schedule. It works out better for people to work while their kids are at school. They can set their own hours. They can work from home. They can work remotely. It's a set amount of time and then you move on to the next thing. Some of the examples of jobs in a gig economy, which are all the jobs happening right now: graphic design and branding, digital marketing, freelance writing, pet sitting and dog walking. These are the 10 most popular gig economy jobs. Virtual assistant, which is humongous. Do you know that virtual assistants can make like $100,000 a year?
What?
I want to be a virtual assistant. Uber and Lyft, which we just talked about. I think food deliveries in here. Web developer and coding, which has been medical coding has been around as a home job forever since our parents. Proofreader and editor, and then like even video editor and podcast editing. When Jenna and I started the podcast, we looked into podcast editing and they make $100 an hour.
A little out of our price range.
$100 an hour.
We told Janelle's sister that she should go into that and like website design.
Yes, she's so good.
People will pay big money for that.
Amy Jonak, undocumented employee of Done Playing by the Rules. And Brandon Wilson. But I think it's really interesting to note that as the gig economy increases, which I mean, in the pandemic, I can't imagine that it's only 43%. This was written before the pandemic, so think of what
now,
it actually is. Like, I could not leave my house for a month if I wanted to.
Right.
All food delivered, all groceries delivered, all clothing delivered, and a lot of these jobs, like I'm not just seeing the Amazon truck. I'm having a minivan drop off stuff in the middle of the night.
So we laughed because we had ordered stuff from Amazon and it all just happened to come today. So there's 4 things coming today, all different trucks, all from Amazon.
All different. Yeah.
It was
so
crazy.
Those people are all participating in the gig economy while their kids are at school. Or like my Costco order, I order Costco every week, and the person that delivers it is doing it while their kids are at school. And I just think that if you read these articles, it'll explain to you like a 4-year degree has no place in a gig economy.
Right.
Because it's not providing you with any of the tools you need. And in this article, which I will link, it also goes on to state the other problem with 4-year degrees, not enough people are innovating enough in higher education. General Electric looks nothing like it looked in 1975. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Stanford look exactly like they looked in 1975. Here's the problem. So the main thing that they say is in this article, the pace of innovation in higher education is stunningly slow. We're still on a system where the break is in the summer. The reason that the system works like that is because we in the summer went to pick plants, and that was a natural way to organize school. So they're saying that if these universities don't whiplash their changes, they're going to be so obsolete in 10 years that it's not even going to be relevant.
I mean, I think, but I don't know, because I do feel like there are people from our generation that they have been so ingrained with how important college is that they have the same viewpoint.
I think so too. I honestly think that it's probably 50-50, if not more, even though these articles state otherwise. I'd say that 50% of the people that I know have a goal of sending their children to college.
Or it's like they still have their parents around and their parents are like, no, like my grandkid is going to college.
Yeah.
I think that's another like big thing. So it'll be interesting to see.
Because grandparents have a lot of, and in this economy also right now where in-laws are living with children and are a big part of caregiving teams, which was a funny thing when I lived in Richmond. They kept showing us houses and they're like, this is the in-law suite. This is the in-law suite. And I was like, what the fuck is an in-law suite? Finally, I said,
or like, who would want that? Like, you're probably
why is that a thing? And they're like, oh, they're always on the main floor because, you know, your mother-in-law. And I was like, y'all just live like multi-generationally. I'm sorry, please come again. But that's a big thing there. And here everybody has family around. And so you do have these boomer generations still breathing down your neck of how to raise children. And that is a very common, and see, my parents weren't like, you need to go to college. My parents were like, graduate high school and do kind of what you want to do. My dad did want me to go just because I think he felt like I would benefit from it. I think he thought I would benefit differently than I did. I don't think he thought I'd get all my partying out of my system for whatever he was paying. But I know still a lot from college that actually I say to Josh a lot, like, if you ever divorce me, I put a lot of knowledge into your brain on how to run businesses because like I know a lot still about economics and how supply and demand works and how like balance sheets work and stuff that I can actually give him real life help with things. And he didn't go to college. And so I have actual business degree knowledge, even though I didn't finish. And so there isn't a cut and dry answer to this. College isn't the devil. I just think that it's time for us as parents to reflect on what pathway we are intentionally or unintentionally forcing onto our children. And forcing is not meant to be a mean word. We ingrain things in our children every single day. And if it's college, you need to do this because of college, you need to do this because of college. I hear it on homeschool. Do you like read about it in homeschool boards a lot? Like, what do you do when they want to go to college? I see it every new homeschooler that comes onto my state's homeschool page.
Oh, like in terms of like transcripts.
Like, how do you provide transcripts when they want to go to college? The biggest question is like, how do you prove what they know when they want to go to college? And it's like, will they want to go?
Or they'll be very well prepared because it's not just filler stuff.
Exactly. And I think, yes. And they often say like, and I'm not, as Jenna did we talk about this yet, that my kids are going to school next year? Okay. I always forget who I told and who I didn't tell things. So I'm not saying like, hey, homeschool's better. Jenna doesn't think homeschool or public, like we don't have a preference. We're just do what's best for our family year to year. If my kids come to me and say, I desperately want to go to college, and they say, I want to go to be a architect, I want to go to be a blah, blah, blah. If they come to me and say, I want to go to be a puppeteer, I'm still going to sit down with them and honor that conversation and hear why they feel that college is a necessity to that, just the same way that my brother sat down with my dad and explained to my parents why he wasn't going to college. Your brother works in a job with his hands that he loves, and outside, and college wouldn't have mattered a shit to that.
No.
But there are things that college is going to matter to, like Mikey, who's going to operate on people's leg bones.
Yeah,
he
you
should
kind of
probably
need
go to college.
Yeah. Well, and so I know that the second we had kids, it was a topic. Like, are you going to set up what is it out here? 529? Is that it?
God, I don't remember.
Something
so
plan.
Long ago. I'm 100.
So in Texas, they also have a plan. And my husband went to school out of state. I went to a private university, and we were like, we're not setting up something that's in state because we want our kids to have the freedom to choose.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
And then it kind of opened our eyes, and we were like, wait, why are we setting up a college fund? And we really started talking. So we have set up just a savings account because that was important to grandparents. I felt like they were like, well, when they we had our kids baptized. When they get baptized or when they have a birthday, we want to contribute to their quote college fund. And we're like, okay. So we set this up, and it's basically, we looked into all of them, and some are right for some people. They're like, I think the Virginia one, you can do a trade school as well. But I was like, what if we basically have like a Taylor Swift on our hands? Like, she's not going to trade school. So, and the money can be transferred from like one kid to the other if they don't go. But we were like, this just feels so complicated and confining. So we just set up a savings. When our kids are 18, they kind of decide. They don't necessarily get the money because I think personally it depends on the child. Because I could have handled it at 18, but I love my brother. He could not have.
I'm your brother. I would have went out and bought all new clothes and probably a new car.
And so if they do go to college, like it can be used for that. If they go to trade school, it can be used for that. If they want to pursue their career, they're going to need some help, whether it's with rent or say they're a tattoo artist. They're going to have to buy all the equipment or whatever it may be to get themselves on their feet. And so that is one way that we have supported. I don't even want to say their education after high school because it's not necessarily education, their career path or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Like I understand my kids might come to us at 18 and say, I have no idea what I want to do. And then we will sit down and we will talk. We will look at all the opportunities, trade school, a career path. Basically, we'll play the game of life, right? Trade school, career path, college. What do you want to do? Here's what each has to offer you. It's not a set commitment. If you start college and you hate it, guess what? You don't have to finish. You can't just like cold turkey finish and come live back home. You have to have a plan. If you start a career path and you say, okay, I'm not finding the opportunities I want, everywhere is saying I need some kind of degree, even if it's an associate's, like we will help you with that, but you're not like set in stone for that. But we're also not going to have the mindset of like, okay, you're out of high school. Now you can just, what I say is dick around and live at home and do nothing. Like you have to have a plan after that. Because I know some people that also have had the experience where it's like, my parents let me think about what I wanted to do. And then they basically did nothing. And they're like, I wish my parents pushed me more.
Yeah.
So like, we're going to challenge them, but we're also not going to limit them, if that makes sense.
I think that was a big part of my dad sending me too, is I think he knew I was just going to float along. Like my dad just one day a week before I was going to move to college was like, I'm going to take you to college tomorrow. And like, I think he was so concerned that I was not going to fly the nest that he was like, I have to push her out.
Yes.
And I think that was a big part of it. But I do think that there has to be, like you said, there has to be the pros and cons on the table of what their plans are and what their passions are.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, just so you know, if you choose to not go to college, not go to trade school, and you want to become a self-made TikTok YouTube producer, God, how old do I sound? The TikTok YouTube producer, if you want to like pursue something like this, like that's your money and that's your chance. And if this is your dream, and
Mm-hmm.
you choose to blow your money on that dream and it doesn't work out, I have all the faith in the world in you, but just know, like, that is your enrichment path that you are choosing, and I'm not going to bail you out 45 times.
And I think we also know our kids too, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't have the opportunity to not go to college, unfortunately, even though I think college was the best choice for me. However, my brother, it was not. I think he could have pursued other things, but I wanted to go to a small little, it wasn't community college, but it's one where you could just get like your associates. Do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know what that's called. Junior college, a junior college. And I wanted to go there because it was 15 minutes from home. And my parents knew that eventually because I'd always been really outgoing. They knew eventually I would get over what I was going through mentally. Yeah. And they wanted me to have the opportunities. And I am so glad they did. And so they pushed me. They were like, this one's 45 minutes away. And they gave me like the security of like, you can come home, but you are not living at home. If you need to come home for the weekend or for a night, you are welcome. The door is always open. You are living at school. You are going to, and they knew they had to push me because if I had this little bubble. And so if I just kept living in that bubble, I would have just stayed home and driven to college every day and not had any of those opportunities.
Exactly.
And then my parents ended up divorcing and splitting up. And so if I had been at home, like my world would have.
You would have been in the middle of all of that,
I technically was at home because I was in between living situations, but I was only at home for like 2 weeks. But I was so glad that I actually had somewhere else to go afterwards. And like I said, studying abroad was one of the best things, and it really formed me as a person and my love for travel. And it really made me see like I can manage this thing called anxiety, which was still new at that time. I mean, I had it for 2 or 3 years as a label and had been on and off medications. And so like I was so anxious going. And my dad was like, the worst thing that can happen is that we bring you back home. End of story. And I was, like I said, I'm beyond grateful. And they just knew that. They knew if I had gone to this junior college, I would have stayed in this little town and I would not have become the person I wanted to become. And so I think as parents, we do know our kids. And so we know if our kids, basically like if Peyton wanted to become a singer and she is the worst singer ever, I'm not going to say, here's all the money, go make it big, child.
Make a record label.
Right? Like I'm just not. I'm going to be honest with my kid. I know that sounds a little harsh, but
I think you should lie to her and be like, baby, you're the next big thing.
Right?
You get it, Brittany. You go,
you got it, girl.
But I think that your point is very correct. And that's not to say, like, I personally think that, like, some of the more successful kids that I know, too, followed the path of go to community college for a year and get some cheap credits under your belt, build up your callus to learn how to study, and then
figure out what you want to do.
Yes. Like, that's kind of brilliant if you are actually going to leave the nest at some point.
Right.
Which Jenna was not going to. Jenna was going to revert into a full baby.
Yeah.
And my parents tried to get me to stay home and go. So I went to a school 2 hours away, but there was a school like 25 minutes away. And they tried to get me to stay home and go to that school really hard. And I was like, if I'm going to go, I need to go. But I didn't get diagnosed with anxiety until I think I was 20. So I could not face the idea of living in a dorm. So I was so anxiety ridden that I never sent in my dorm registration because I was so petrified of it. And so all of a sudden they called me and were like, you didn't send in your dorm registration by the deadline. Like, you don't have a dorm. And so I ended up living off campus, which was the ideal situation for me.
Okay.
Just because I needed my own bedroom. I could not function. I don't do well with people like in an enclosed space. I feel really claustrophobic. Like I'm in my closet right now and I'm like, and it's huge. It worked out well, but my anxiety would not let me send in the dorm form because I was so petrified of living with someone else. It worked out for the best and the worst because there was not a very strict drinking policy off campus in my house. Shout out 19th and Lawn. Yes. But it was so fun. But I think I would want my kids to probably be in a dorm situation if I sent them.
Dorms are just as bad, honestly.
Are they? See, I don't even know. Oh, yeah, you're right. They were. I do remember some bad dorm situations.
You have to remember there's an RA and it's basically
Yeah.
another college kid. Like,
There was a
you know.
kid in my boyfriend at the time's dorm that somehow lit his hand on fire doing a shot of 151, but they didn't want to tell anyone, and so they just wrapped it up in wet toilet paper and he went to bed.
Oh my gosh.
And
I actually
then
lived in a sorority house and it was actually the calmest situation, which
see,
you
isn't
wouldn't
that
think.
crazy? I know. Okay, now we're just
Yeah.
like reminiscing on how fun college is. Back
Yeah.
to college is the worst. No, see, but that's what we don't think college is the worst. We just are evolving.
It's just not for
with-
everyone.
It's not for everyone. We're evolving with the times, and we're recognizing that we don't want our peer parents, which are the parents that are the same age as us, with their little alpha generation kids. I mean, a 10-year-old is a Gen Z, so they might not want to go to college and know that the world is bigger than it was when we were young and when our parents were young, and figure out what percentage of the pressure is coming from your baby boomer parents and what part of the pressure is coming from yourself being told that college was the only way, and then factor that into what the economy really is right now with social media and gaming and app development and all
I think
of it.
money was so important to our parents' generation too.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that came from how they grew up. Like, I know my dad grew up with not a lot of money.
Well, their parents lived through the Great Depression, and so
Yes.
that generational trauma was still strong in our boomer parents.
Definitely. And like my dad wanted a high paying, very strong job. And so he thought his kids should have the same. And I love my dad to death, but he did have very closed views on things. And so my brother, it was like, oh, this isn't a real career. Even me being a teacher, he didn't see it as like a true good career. Like, he was proud of me.
Careers, yes.
But I think it was the money. And I can't tell you how many people I got the comments from people the same age as me when I was in college, whether they were at a different college because I would visit friends at college, or at my college with a different career path. So why would you ever become a teacher? Because the amount of money you're spending on your education will never be made up with your career. Like, basically, I'll never make back the money. And I'm just
basically another reason why teachers are the angels of the universe. They are literally doing something that puts them in debt for their love of teaching your children.
Yes.
I get so mad when people
and I'm just
treat them like goddamn heroes, because they are literally putting themselves into a lifetime of debt because they love your child.
So my question is, are you and Josh on the same page?
Totally. Yeah. Josh might even be more anti-college than I am, because
Why didn't he go?
He didn't really like high school, and as soon as he started working like real hard jobs when he was 16, and by the time he was 18 he was running he was like head manager of a
and his parents were just
store.
Like, cool.
Yeah, they didn't care. And I mean, he just started making money, and then he just started climbing so fast that there was just no reason. And he had friends because he lived in Kansas City, and he partied with his friends that were in college. And so he still lived like the college experience, but he had like a real career job. So it just never fit.
So that makes sense. I mean, that's nice that his parents didn't like pressure it.
I don't think that. I mean, I've never asked him if they pushed him, but I don't think they did at all. He also just hated high school so much. I think he finished high school online, I want to say. Was
that even a thing?
Yes, that's what I said. I was like, what were you on, AOL dial-up? Like,
right?
I think my sister finished in an alternative way. I know that my brother like graduated high school only because my dad had him at Kinko's the whole night before high school graduation, so he could finish one final project that would have failed him from like. I only went to college because I went to public school, and I was fucking around so much in 9th grade that my parents sent me to private school in 10th grade, and it was like required basically that you go to college out of that high school. Like I still get their newsletter, and it is like, our college enrollment is 98%. Like all the private schools you and I toured. Remember you did private schools that you and I toured, and it was like, our kindergartners will all go to college, and it was just like, what if they don't? What if they don't?
And this is the school they go to, and
everything they're doing there, and It's been
Mhm.
so it's still a very real selling point for a private school that we were going to pay a lot of money to send our kids to. They had pictures up of all the graduates and what college they were going to and what they were going to study. And this was the beginning of the pandemic. So
Mhm.
college isn't going anywhere right now, but just be open to the idea that it might not be where our little generation. How much do you love that they're Generation Alpha? It's so
Is it
cute.
alpha or alpha?
Alpha. Well,
Spell it.
AL, like
Okay.
the Greek. What was
I
I
thought
saying?
that's what you were saying, but with your accent, it sounds kind of like
My
an
nose
E.
is super stuffy too
Alpha.
because I was around bonfires for the whole weekend,
Oh.
so like nothing is
Yeah.
working in here.
That
You
is
haven't
really
seen me,
cute. I
like,
didn't
the
know
whole
that.
time.
Okay. A alpha, like alpha dog.
Alpha.
Female. Can we make our call to action? I'm sure some of us know high schoolers or people who are about to be in high school and possibly graduate to stop saying, so what college are you going to? To just say like, or not even what's your plan? Do you have a plan yet for after high school?
Or
Like,
what are your interests for when school's done?
Yeah. And just kind of leave it at that. And if they
Jenna,
say college, cool.
I love that.
Thanks.
Zach this morning told me that he's going to start an amusement. Well, Zach's has been starting an amusement park for like the last 6 months, but this morning he informed me the amusement park would be in Virginia. So
Ooh,
I hope
what
you
kind?
enjoy. I don't know. It's gonna have a lot of Minecraft rides and a lot of Roblox rides and a lot of like spooky haunted houses. Basically, I think just all things
game.
Zach's afraid of.
Yeah.
He's gonna put in his amusement park.
Cool.
Because when
Face
he
your
realized
fears,
how expensive going to Disney was, he was like, "That is it. This is how you get rich." So
right?
Zach's amusement park is moving to Virginia. So get excited.
I'll be a tour guide. No, I don't like people.
Oh yeah, that'd be perfect.
I'll do PR.
Yeah, you could do PR. You can do like the journal. You can do the announcements.
Perfect.
The park will be closing in 15 minutes. Please see the exit.
And I'll do the music. I'll have good park music for him.
Yeah.
So we hope you enjoy this. I know that everyone's going to have different viewpoints on this. So if your viewpoint's different, just remember this is ours and yours is yours.
You can write it in and say, guess what? College is important because blah, blah, blah. And I'm more than happy to take criticism and constructive criticism and unconstructive. Is unconstructive a word? Zach and I were working on prefixes and suffixes today. And he was like, what's the difference between a prefix and a suffix? And I was like, I think beginning and end. And I just had to guess because the book didn't tell me. I think that we are willing to take all criticism. If you write in and say like, hey, just so you know, you can't do this, and this without a college degree. It's not just for lawyers, accountants, and CPAs and doctors.
We know it's for others. You have to have degrees
like
for certain things.
Like we get it. And even like an economist for
like
sure.
my husband had to have a degree for his job.
Yeah.
In biology.
Like, biology. Obviously, we're not just narrowing it down to that. We're just doing it to like keep this. I mean, if you want us to start every episode by listing everything that you will need a college degree for in the year 2040, we are happy to do so. But just assume that we we get it. But again, if my kids want to go to college, yes. But if they say, hell to the no, it's not going to be the way it was for me and the way it was for Jenna and the way it was for Jenna's parents and the way it
wasn't even a conversation. Nope. And who knows? All of this could change by the time our kids go to school. There could be a whole other education path by the time our kids go to school.
Like a whole other education system that's just all on Peloton.
Right? A year of figuring it out and they dig deep and find their interests. Wouldn't that be cool?
I love it. Because what if somebody had told you 2 years ago, because you were an Orange Theory mad woman and I was a Burn Boot Camp mad woman. What if someone had told us 2.5 years ago, like, hey, guess what? You'll be working out at home exclusively in 2 years. You'd have been like, you're insane, gross. And like, everything changes completely so fast in this technology age and this age of the pandemic and the ongoing everything that my kids weren't going to school next year at the beginning of this school year. Like everything changes so fast that there could be an entire new educational structure where college says, guess what? We're just going to provide on campus at your job classes. And the university standard becomes an antiquated idea that you and I just talk about how fun college was.
Who knows? Who knows? But with that, call your therapist.
And take your meds.
2, 3, 4.